Twitter and other high-tech giants are trying to severely restrict or stamp out conservative opinion. For years, they have hampered or on occasion blocked right-of-center postings. Now, in the aftermath of that horrific mob attack on Capitol Hill last week, they have shed all pretenses of objectivity. Any inhibitions at censorship are gone. Most egregiously, they've taken steps to destroy Parler, a relatively new competitor to Twitter. The moguls running Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, and others piously claim they're against fomenting violence. That's good. But in this case, it's kind of laughable given the rancid, murderous postings that go untouched from Chinese and Iranian propagandists, not to mention over-the-top postings from individuals and various organizations. For example, the former CEO of Twitter last year called for the shooting of capitalists he found objectionable. By the way, Parler is working hard to ferret out any violent postings, but its real sin is that it wants to be a non-ideological bulletin board. Big tech is blundering here. It may think it is buying protection insurance from Democrats who have won control of the White House and both houses of Congress, but they're only creating serious ill will that will eventually hurt them. Arrogance and a public be damned attitude always invite retribution, no matter how powerful companies and organizations think they are. By trying to destroy Parler and other sites, big tech will be hit with lawsuits, charging them with restraint of trade. Parler is already suing Amazon. Big tech's actions are providing grist for antitrust actions. They're fanning anger from millions of Americans who feel that big business and haughty, power-hungry, out-of-touch politicians are attempting to marginalize or suppress them. This anger and sense of alienation is not healthy for the political and cultural environment. Section 230, which gives big tech legal immunity from lawsuits not enjoyed by traditional media companies, will be successfully attacked. Years ago, the tech giants should have realized that their well-being ultimately depends on public goodwill, or at least acquiescence. Decades ago, AT&T was a legal telephone monopoly. Ma Bell, as the company was nicknamed in those days, went out of its way to please one and all. Service was impeccable. Its personnel were the essence of politeness and helpfulness. Every media outlet got advertisements from AT&T. All this protected it from political attack. Technology, not politics, ultimately broke up the old AT&T monopoly. Too bad big tech hasn't followed that model.
Silenced by Silicon Valley, social media app Parler is suing Amazon after it was removed from Amazon Web Services. This follows President Trump's permanent ban by Twitter. Now, some conservative users worry their ability to communicate is being taken away. Joining me right now is the host of Justice with Judge Janine and Fox Nation's Castles USA host Janine Pirro. Judge, great to see you this morning. Thank you for being here. What's your take on this current big tech issue?
Well, this is a real problem, Maria. You know, everybody talks about free speech, but this is even more than that. It is a suppression of speech that they disagree with and that big tech is objecting to. And we got a taste of this, Maria, pre-election when big tech suppressed the New York Post story, which went through all the rigors of their publishing editors, and they decided that America shouldn't hear about the Hunter Biden issues. Look, the social media is the broadcast medium of our generation. It's the way we talk to each other. It's the way we communicate and share information. And this is so Orwellian, it's not even worth referencing. But Big Brother is basically deciding what we can say and whether we can even communicate with each other. And my fear is that the Biden administration is going to dismiss some of these antitrust actions against these monster monopolies like Amazon and Google and Apple. And the problem is that they are censoring or eliminating a whole segment of society, not to mention a president of the United States, where even Angela Merkel is saying that's a bit problematic, don't you think? Especially for Americans. Yeah. I mean, the rest of the world has to look at us and say they've lost their minds.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, Judge.
When President Trump was taken to court and told that he can't block people on Twitter because he's a president, a sitting president, and that account of his, even the personal one, he's using to announce policy, and therefore he's not allowed to block people on Twitter under free speech rules under the US Constitution. Do you remember that? He lost that case because the judges said, you're a president, you're not allowed to block people. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're not allowed to block people because your tweet, your personal Twitter profile is announcing public policy, and the judges have said you're not allowed to block people, then you're a sitting president. How on earth does a tech company have the power to silence you if you're not allowed to block other people? By the very same reasoning, it cannot be that you should be allowed to ban the sitting president.
Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and countless others have banded together to silence the president, and they're going further, kneecapping any other site that might provide a home to the president and his supporters, like Parler. Google delisted them from their store. Apple then followed. Most significantly, Amazon is cutting off Parler's servers, effectively shutting it down from midnight tonight. So follow me there at Steve Hilton X. You only got a few more hours. The president used social media in the first place because the establishment media refused to cover him and his movement fairly. Now they justify their censorship by claiming they're just trying to squash anything that could promote violence. But look at this tweet from May. Meet at the Beverly Center. They said they're going to start the riot at 6 p.m. Twitter not only allowed that, they promoted it in their What's Happening section. What's happening? A riot, 6 p.m. Go for it, says Jack Dorsey, because when it's violence Jack Dorsey approves of, it's not censored by Twitter, it is promoted by Twitter. Here's another one. Let's get to that cop's house and burn it down. Jeff Bezos, so concerned about inciting violence that he continues to profit from selling books that promote looting. Mark Zuckerberg, happy to profit from giving a platform to Syria's dictator Assad, who gassed his own people. Jack Dorsey again, happy for Iran's Ayatollah to incite mass murder, explicitly, repeatedly. These cynical billionaires couldn't care less about their platforms inciting violence. Zuckerberg coddles the Ayatollah and Putin and Assad because he wants to operate in their countries. He's not going to get shut down in America for banning Trump. Quite the opposite. People say, well, they're private companies, so they can do what they want. Yes, but they're private monopolies. Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they own the infrastructure of the internet. It's as if suddenly conservatives weren't allowed to drive on freeways. Section 230 reform is not the answer to this. Giant companies like Facebook have the resources to cope with it. Zuckerberg wants 230 reform. It would be yet another way to crush competition. Republicans have to get real. The only answer is to break up these companies and not just force Facebook to get rid of WhatsApp and Instagram, but main Facebook broken up into tiny pieces. Zuckerberg is a megalomaniac. Aggressive breakup is the only thing he fears. That's why we have to do it.